Hey everybody, welcome to another Titans of ServiceNow episode. Ladies and gentlemen, today I have a real treat for you. I've been waiting so long to get this man on the call. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you Hichem Guemiri, president of HGC. And the reason I have wanted him on the call for so long is that his story is so inspirational. You know, I always root for the underdogs. I know there's a lot of you out there who you don't have big backing, you don't have big funds to do it all yourself, but you're using whatever resources you can to reap the opportunity in the ServiceNow space. And Hichem's just got a brilliant story about that. So without any more hesitation, ladies and gentlemen, Hichem Guemiri.
Thanks a lot, Robert. Thanks for having me today and taking the time to do the podcast. It's really interesting, the fact that you're taking your own time to provide value to the community, regardless of the payout. As far as my story, it's like any other story. Sometimes you watch movies or you hear about, celebrities like Oprah or Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you're like, how come they succeeded? I think we're all born with the same opportunities. And it all depends on the culture, where we grow up, the environment, and how we see ourselves. The thing is, I'm an immigrant. I moved to Canada when I was 18 years old due to a civil war back in my home country in Algeria, in North Africa. Big civil war in the 90s. I got shot by a terrorist militia in my house when we were attacked in 1995, actually February 10th, 1995. And my father decided to lose everything and move us to Canada. So at 18 years old, I moved with my parents. I come from a well-off family back home, and we lost everything. And I remember my father, he gave me, $5, and he said, this is the first and the last, $5 I will give you. I remember we landed on June 26, 1996. Within 2 days, I found a job. I was, working at $6 an hour, emptying trucks and put the load into pallets. And it was interesting. The fact is, my dream at the time was to, own a suit, own a car, work in a building downtown. And so I started school in that period. I went into cinema. I wanted to be a movie star. I guess every African wants to be a movie star and move to Hollywood. Which is not easy to do. And, as time goes, I started working every day, did all kind of jobs. I was working from, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. in the morning, going to computer school. Once I stopped doing cinema during the day, and then programming at night. But I think the thing that helped me a lot is that I was lucky to have been born very ambitious. I always believed that I can achieve more, that what was in front of me. And I always believed, and I still believe, that we are all the same deep down. And you have nothing above me and I have nothing above you. We are all equal with different opportunities, obviously, different accents, different shapes, different, sizes. But I think if you work hard enough, you can achieve anything that you set your mind to. And Robert, we know each other for over 3-4 years now. Mm-hmm. And, we shared many stories about, today, I own a very successful, ServiceNow partner company, HGC, with, my business partner, Pietro, who gave me the chance and hired me when I was 22 years old. Where we are today, HGC, is due to the fact that we help young people achieve their dreams. And I think at the core of our culture is giving chances. So I was given the chance. And I think in life, sometimes the door gets open and we open it and nothing is behind it. Open another door and another door until we don't know the results. We don't know if any choice is good or bad. I think the idea is to take chances and to take quick decisions. Yeah. And sometimes, too, we see that in the way we work, correct? Mm-hmm. You do a project and no one is making the decision. We set up one-on-one. Let's focus, let's take decisions. And it turns into a wedding rehearsal. You show up and it's like 25 people around the table and no decision is, I call it a wedding rehearsal. So I think decision is at the core of things. I was lucky. I always consider luck is a big thing, but I actually worked hard for that luck. And I continue to work hard.
That's what people mean when they say make your own luck, is that you've got to be working hard when luck gets there so that you can exploit it when you see it coming.
Yeah, and I think it's very important to see it. And sometimes you don't see it when you're younger, But after a couple of years, you turn
Right.
back and you say, even that big failure, it can be a relationship, or it can be a job that you did not get, or it can be anything.
Can I ask you a couple? I'll ask you a couple questions
Sure.
about you, and then I want to ask a couple of ways that you and HGC do that payback to the youth. You said you were born ambitious, but can you attribute that to anything? Like, did you have any kind of like relatives or people that you kind of modeled that after, or was it always just something inside you that you couldn't stop? Well, I guess not that you want to stop it, but was it always manifest inside of you, or was it something that you learned from other people?
I think it's something that you are born with. I think some people are born more ambitious than others. It's because, but at the same time, how did I model myself? Honestly, I modeled myself after movies. My heroes were Arnold Schwarzenegger, were Sylvester Stallone. When you are in North Africa, even though, we had means over there, we had good means. My father was educated. He was the only educated person in his, 10 brothers and sisters. So he was super smart. But he was not an ambitious person. And that's fine because his goal was his family. For me, since I'm young, I always wanted to find out more. Where you go from a small village by the beach, looking at the Mediterranean Sea, dreaming about what's behind, and then you're there inside, and you achieve that goal, and you turn back and you're like, wow, so if I can achieve this, I can achieve that. And I think that's why small goals, and it goes, I'll make the parallel with projects, correct? So doing the big bangs projects never works. So it's the same thing. If you do the small increments, you'll achieve something. It might not be the best, but at least you keep achieving things. So the big bang never works. You cannot go from, taking the subway to driving a Ferrari. But you can dream about driving that Ferrari. So how do you get there? How do you drive that Ferrari?
So this is how your life has informed the way that you approach your implementations. You couldn't fulfill your ambitions in one big bang, but then that informs the way you approach a ServiceNow project?
We always approach, what is the goal as a partner, correct? Or as a consultant. Now, people pay you for what they don't know or what they cannot do, correct?
Yeah.
So the key is not to think that you're smarter than the client. And that's the mistake that most people do. As a consultant, they think that they're smarter than the client and the client don't know. The clients, most of them, they've been in that organization for a long time. They know how it works inside and inside out. The only advantage that we offer, all of us, as consultants, as partners, is the fact that we don't stay in one place, correct? We get to go to see multiple people. We actually get to date multiple clients, multiple people. So we know what to do or not what to do. If you date the same person your whole life, that's the only thing you know. What I mean by, dating is that we get to see multiple clients. So we get to see multiple realities. Every client think that what they're facing is special, and they are special. But the thing is, all the issues are always the same. So we get to see multiple things. So we are there to provide advisory. So we are kind of advisors. So the key is to advise, to do small increments, start small and build on top of successes. So if you're, and we both know that ServiceNow, go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question about that specifically because people know you because of your CMDB book, right? Well, I mean, yes. I mean, when I met you, that's how they know you. You've done so much more since then, but you can't say Hichem Guemiri without also having your CMDB book pop into your head. And this is I'd love for you to teach me. Okay, how do you go small on something like CMDB? Or how do you start small on something with CMDB?
Okay, so CMDB, the reason why I got to be known as CMDB, Robert, you've been in this space for a long time. So for me, I come from a different world. I come from the CA Unicenter world. So when I started working off college in the 2000, I believe, for Bombardier Aerospace, I was implementing, CA Unicenter globally for Bombardier. And I was more into the CA Unicenter. And CA was like the hype at the time. It was the ServiceNow of the 1990s and early 2000s. But they got too obnoxious and, they did not improve on what they had built. So ServiceNow came from nowhere. They built what we know as the common data model and the ease of use and the cloud, solution in the cloud. Even though, the GUI is not the best, good-looking GUI out there, they still, took the market by surprise. The thing is, how CMDB, how do you start small? Most people complicate CMDBs, and they buy ServiceNow Discovery, and they turn it on, and they discover the word, and without the thinking behind it. But what is the one use case that you're trying to achieve in any company? And that's the only question. So when I get a call and from clients or potential prospects, and they say, I want to do a CMDB project, and my response is, CMDB is bullshit. You don't want to do a CMDB project. That's the last thing you want to do. You are going to fail. What are you trying to achieve? We go basic. Are you trying to resolve your incidents quickly? Are you trying to understand where the problems are coming from? Are you trying to identify the impact on your changes because you have a P1 every week due to crazy changes that are happening and you don't know about? Are you trying to make sure your customers are happy? Are you trying to understand your capacity? Are you trying to understand what you have because you need to move to the cloud? So what is the one use case that you're trying to achieve and you need to know about? That's it.
Can I test something there?
Yeah, sure.
Everybody should know that's on this call that I am not a CMDB person. It's kind of the area where I'm just like, I wave my hands and I'm like, no. Like, I'll tell you what not to do, which you and I will agree. Don't just turn on Discovery and say, there's my CMDB. But I tell people that idea about the use case as well, right? Be sure you know why you need a CMDB, right? There's a why behind it. I mean, I've been to a customer site where I had to do a workshop. I was working for a vendor at the time, a partner at the time, and they were like, okay, show up to this do a CMDB workshop with them. And I came in and I'm like, well, what do you want the CMDB to do? And they're like, what are you talking about? We want it to exist. But why do you want it to exist, right? And so hours worth of digging, and we found out the only tangible use case they want is they wanted to know OS versions on all their servers. There's compliance frameworks they needed to support for that. I'm like, that's an awesome use case. So let's just discover the servers and that version. Well, what about all the other tables and all the other fields? I'm like, but why? Like, you can't tell me how you'd use that information. So it sounds like, at least I lucked out on a right answer there. But what if they told you something like, we need a picture of what our organization looks like from a technology standpoint? Like they basically wanted to be like the map.
But to what end? What is the end result there? Why do you need to know about things that you don't have to? People, quote unquote, they equal CMDB to discovery, which is wrong. So CMDB is the data, correct? It's the database that holds the information. So when we go with that aspect, ServiceNow is a CMDB because in ServiceNow I can use any table. So in reality, the users that I have there, or the location table, or the company table, that are part of the CMDB. So ServiceNow is the CMDB. When we think about it, it's not just the affected CI that I select from that table or the affected business service or the relationship in between them. Everything that is in ServiceNow I can use to one end. So the person always identifies the who, and the location, for example, it identifies the where, and the CI, in this case, identifies the what's been affected. Anything can be in the CMDB, and ServiceNow is the CMDB. So if you go with that logic, why would you want to know everything that you have? Too much information kills information. Too much data kills the data. Let's say you find the servers, correct?
Yeah.
So then I ask, okay, how about governance? We have a CMDB. How about configuration management process? How about configuration management committee? Where is the governance in place? And they say, why do I need a process? Discovery will add my CI. Okay, but there are two things that are very, very important when you do CMDB. You want to make sure that no CIs are added without proper governance, without proper process. And you want to know that everything is added or was actually discovered or been added through integrations actually has been added the right way. So if you let discovery populate your CMDB, how do you make sure that you're actually discovering the right thing? Maybe you're discovering things that you shouldn't have. And maybe how do you know about that if you don't have the right process? So everything in reality starts from a request to do something. A new server starts from a project or starts from a request to improve something. Maybe it's a move due to compliance. Maybe it's a decision from a company that says, we're getting rid of this data center, moving to the cloud. So everything starts from a reason. So if we catch the reasons, you can have the right process. So I would not recommend to discover the entire anything. I would recommend to do increments and start with what you need, how you intend to manage your basic processes. So this is something I stole from my wife's makeup kit. I told my wife, why do you pay this much for this makeup kit? And so I started looking at the box. It was a nice golden box. So I turned it around and I see that they had this process, even for makeup. And the first thing they started with was priming, prime.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking at it, I'm like, wow, okay, it's interesting. This parallel can work actually for operational service management. And it's something I come up with, Robert. I think it's important to mix ITSM and ITAM. So I remove the word IT and basically I call it OSM, operational service management.
I'm listening, man. This is great stuff.
Okay, thanks. I do talk a lot, so you have to stop me there. So it's important to not just think about service management, or people call it IT service management, but IT is far removed now. I mean, business is what drives any company, not IT. IT is part of the business. The word IT is obsolete. It's 1980. As information technology, we are part of the business. We drive any business. Think about any business today. They need us, correct? So operational service management, not just about putting in incident change requests. That's all basic. That's priming. You should already have done that. But I know you're a lot, Robert, into PA, into performance analytics, and you have a cool solutions and vivid charts that everyone should check out, by the way. I'm doing the assessment for
guy.
you. So we're jumping in on the wagon, Robert. At HGC, we are going partner with Unit Trust and push your solutions. It's awesome solutions. But the key here is that it's the same thing with reports, correct? We get us as providers to submit work. So let's say someone calls me up and says, I need an SOW to implement incident management or to implement asset management.
Yeah.
There are two things that the clients, somehow, they really never want to see there, or they don't ask about. First thing, training. It's always an afterthought. And the second thing is actually reports and metrics. That's always another afterthought.
Oh, Guy, you get me all wound up on this.
So,
like, how many scopes have you seen where it's like the final item on deploying a process is a bullet point that says do reporting?
A lot. So all of them. The idea here is that training, always an afterthought. Crazy. How do you expect to push something without having trained everyone to use the solution? They should not show up on Monday morning and, oh, okay, my God, I have now to use this ServiceNow incident management module and I have to, and no reports. You look at CMDB dashboards. So ServiceNow, they have cool features. They don't do a good job on marketing or promoting their product.
Are you talking like the CMDB health dashboard?
Exactly.
I love that thing. I love that. And that was what, London? Before London even, Kingston? I was working for a partner and they had they used to have been a remedy partner. So they had a lot of people who were super CMDB savvy. And I was sitting in a session helping them learn ServiceNow's CMDB mechanics. And I showed them that CMDB health check dashboard and everybody just got super quiet and leaned in. And then all of a sudden, everybody's like, Rob's a CMDB guy. Look at the genius thing that he's showing us. And I'm like, no, dude, like I know nothing about CMDB, but look at how awesome this chart. Like I look at that chart and all of a sudden the M part in CMDB makes sense. So many people think of CMDB being a thing that operates itself, but why would you have the M part in CMDB if there was no all the time management of it?
Totally agreed. Only 10% of ServiceNow clients use the CMDB health dashboard.
No.
10%. No one knows about it. So it's very important that people use and leverage performance analytics, and they use and leverage reports, and they use and leverage what's there in the platform. Because as nerds, we all like technology. We all like to play around. We love to put new stuff. We have a client, it's a big bank in Florida, and, we've been implementing crazy stuff this year. I think we've done over 20 projects, including 10 applications for the business, real digitalization, not just a buzzword, real stuff, to help the business. But now we decided to stop. We said for the next 6 months, we're not going to do any more projects. We're going to focus on operations, reports, dashboards, operations. How do you use what we have done? Because it's important to take a step back and stop just putting new technologies in place. Right. It's important to use what you put in place. And that's why people complain and they say, ServiceNow is not doing it for me. Well, it has nothing to do with ServiceNow. It was the same thing with Maximo IBM. Before it was the same thing with CA Technologies. Mm-hmm. It's not the technology. It's what you do with it. That's why we always say the 3 Ps. So the 3 Ps, people, process, platform. Super important. So we tend to focus a lot on the platform, but how about people and process? And I think that's where organizations should focus the most. So when we look at CMDB, technology should come last. So that's why we defined an approach that I come up with over the years. And I can tell you how I jumped into the CMDB bandwagon at some point. It's all about the scope, the span, and the methods. So the scope is, what am I trying to achieve? What is my why? What am I trying to resolve? And what I want to manage? In this instance, what is my roadmap? So what is my scope of work? And I compare it to, most people say CMDB project failed. So I compare doing the CMDB project to actually digging your own grave. The scope is, how big am I going to dig? Correct? The span is how deep I want to go. So how deep I want to dig that grave, correct? How deep I want to go, what type of relationship I want to manage, what are the attributes I need to manage. Now, most people focus on discovery, but discovery only shows you one piece. The most important information, it's not discovered, it's people focused. What is that? Who's going to manage that CI? Who's the owner of that CI, regardless of the CI? Who's going to maintain it? Who's going to audit it? Where is that CI located? Somehow maybe you can automate that part with IP addresses. What is the expiration date of that said CI? Those things are not being discovered. Do you need people to manage that information? And then the method is, how do I go about it? How am I digging that hole? Am I going to use a machine, heavy machinery, and go faster? Am I going to use a shovel? Am I going to do it by hand? Because that's the whole thing. And the method then becomes, am I going to use ServiceNow Discovery? Am I going to load the data in Excel sheets? Am I going to integrate? And maybe all of the above. So you see, the method comes at the end. And people usually start with the technology and then they fail. And that's the reason why CMDB project failed. So it's because people focus too much on technology and not enough on people and process.
There you go, folks. Your wisdom for the day. Hichem, thank you for that, because I just don't think there's enough pragmatic discussion about how to get CMDB right that isn't also super biased to a product, right? There's tons and tons of products out there that work in the CMDB space to try and make that M part more manageable, but there just isn't enough conversation from people who have been there, done that, to people who are still trying to get it done, to really talk about the practical limits. Do you ever listen to IT Skeptic?
No.
His Twitter handle is IT Skeptic.
I know him. I know the guy.
Oh, you know him, right?
Yeah,
but he's got some great material on CMDB and its practical limits, right? Your views align so closely with them. I was wondering if he had influenced you, but it sounds like you just learned it in the trenches like everybody else, right?
I jumped into ServiceNow in 2015. Before that, I was doing other products. The only reason, before we were not doing CMDB projects. You never heard that before. We were doing implementations of service management, incident problem change, and you load some assets, I guess. I'm talking about late 90s, early 20s, to 2020, I guess. So it was never a thought. I stumbled upon it. I think my first project when I was on my own, it was in 2010 with a company called CenturyLink. And I was hired because CenturyLink just bought another company that were bigger than them.
Right.
And they needed to, so they had the technology implemented, they had CMD Center in place, but they needed to understand the configuration items of that company that they just bought. That was way bigger than them. So it had nothing to do with technology. So it was my first project. I had no idea where to start. So, and it was actually my first project on my own when I started being an employee and started my own company at the time. So it was more challenging. So I tried to buy books. I think there were one or two books that had CMDB in the title. And I did my research. And we actually succeeded to map the information that we needed, the scope, the span. I just did not have the words around it at the time or the methodology. And then I kept, being asked from various companies to help them on their CMDB journey. And that was on CA, that was on IBM Maximo, on HPSM, on BMC. So you're right. I mean, the challenge is the same, regardless of the technology. The only difference is the power of ServiceNow, because it's so flexible and so awesome. When something is so awesome and so flexible, it becomes very dangerous, correct? If it's not used right.
No doubt.
It's like you get superpowers, and then you become, all of a sudden, if you turn to the dark side, we all know Star Wars is coming up, and I'm a big fan of Star Wars. So, if you go, it's easy to switch to the dark side. So that's ServiceNow for me. It's like a Jedi weapon. You're a Jedi, and it's easy to switch to the dark side because it's so flexible and so easy to use.
Yeah, my metaphors are always like, for this are either like weaponry or machinery. The more power in the thing, the faster and higher magnitude the danger when misapplied.
Correct.
And in applications that are built for building applications, the potential to misapply is staggering.
Oh, definitely. But the power that you can get from that is also amazing.
Yeah. That's why I spend so much time with the podcast, with the YouTube channel, like just trying to amp up the architecture game in the space, right? It's just like it pays to just stop, take a deep breath, think about what you're doing. Don't maximize for delivery, maximize for design.
Yeah. Totally agreed. I'll give you an example, quick on the side note.
Sure.
And we have a retail client. They have stores all over Canada, 1,100 stores. Their challenge is coin change. When they open the store on a Monday morning, they need coins. And the way they were doing it, they were scanning a piece of paper and putting in on paper the coin orders. I want 5 rolls of $2. And you guys don't have, those type of coins, but in Canada we have like $2 coins and $1
Toonies.
coin.
Yeah, I'm Canadian, dude. You didn't know?
I know you're Canadian. I know.
I miss Toonies.
But you're more American now than Canadian.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
So the challenge was, they were scanning those papers, sending them through a printer, get received at the HQ, then they enter the information in SAP, then they send the order to Royal Bank of Canada to send a truck for the coin. So we turned it around actually, and we actually built a catalog for the stores where the store manager can go in and orders coins automatically on the catalog item. And they say, just enter the number, and they press send, send it to ServiceNow, gets approved by the regional manager, connects to SAP, push the order to Royal Bank responds, gets back to ServiceNow, and then boom, order done, gonna be received on Wednesday morning. And they never missed a coin change or a coin delivery since then.
I love stories like that where it's not where people would normally see ServiceNow applied, but there we applied it and we basically solved a commercial scale problem versus like an internal IT scale problem.
The opportunities are immense. So how does CMDB fits into that? You need your stores, correct? As CIs.
Uh-huh.
You need your stores in ServiceNow as CIs, as users. You need to manage the information there. So we're way far more removed from incident of change or request or anything like that. We're way past that.
Hey, Hichem, we're creeping up on time here. I want to thank you for joining us and awesome talk about the CMDB. I'm pretty sure we're going to have to get a part 2 squeezed in at some point. If there was anything you wanted to leave people with, right, either about ServiceNow or about just life in general or about HGC, what would it be?
Thanks, Robert. We definitely need to do another session or two, maybe in French this time.
You
need to practice your French.
Mon français. Besoin beaucoup de pratiquer, mon ami.
Yeah, besoin de pratiquer. Like I need to practice my Spanish, which I need to do every day.
Mon français, c'est ma mère, tabarnak.
That's a good one. You need to keep that one. People, you need to Google that. I think the approach is very simple. I'm thankful for my upbringing. I'm thankful for the life I have. And, regardless of ups and downs, Robert, I know we had a few discussions over the years, and I'm happy to see where we both are today. I just had the baby 10 months ago.
Oh, congrats.
It's funny, at 42 years old. And the thing is, people say having a baby will change you. And it's actually true. I never believed it before. So that, I won't say it changed my outcomes on life, but I think it gave me more resolve. Definitely a resolve to, build, I guess, a stronger company. And people, I think, they always compare HGC to me, which is wrong. I know even though the HG stands for my initials, what I want to say, and maybe some of our employees will listen to this, I hope, is that I wouldn't be what I was or what I am today without the help of the people around me. My family, my wife, my kid, I guess, with her smile every day, and especially our employees. I think our employees the people that work with us, that trust us. There's so many places, especially now, so many opportunities where people can work. In technology, we're blessed to be in a field where it's endless employment. People can find employment on the next day. So I'm really happy and thankful for the people we have. We have a very good team of young talent, and I can go on and on about the team, about each one. But I'm really happy where we are today. We have a very positive outcome going into 2020. We just became elite partner 2 weeks ago.
Nice,
We're very
dude.
proud
Yeah,
about
congrats.
that. So we are, the only elite partner in Quebec today. So yeah, I think that's how I wanted to wrap up. And thanks, Robert, for inviting me today. Looking forward to the second one in the new year.
We'll get it done, buddy. I promise. Thanks again for your time. Ladies and gentlemen,
Cheers.
Hichem Guemiri.